It's always game day in Cleveland. Again, he is Daryl Ryder, and I'm Andy Baskin. All right, so as we head into the final segment here, I want to talk about the Browns' running attack. Nick Chubb, 106 yards, game number one, carried his team when they needed him most. He was able to keep chopping up yardage and keeping that lactic acid flowing, just like he does in the weight room, as he is able to just grind out yards, and he did that against Cincinnati, and it's what makes him such a special running back. Daryl, your thoughts on that, and that he might perhaps have an honor coming up here.
Yeah, he's not going to have an honor coming up this
He
week.
might. You never know.
He's not going to win, but look. I mean, he averaged almost 6 yards a carry against the Bengals. Would have been nice to see him to get him an opportunity to punch it into the end zone. It won't. Look, when this season is over, Andy, Nick Chubb will be the number 2 running back in Cleveland Browns history, behind none other than Jim Brown. He will have surpassed, I should say, everybody else in front of him on that list, and more on that in a second. But to your point, he is nominated for the FedEx Ground Player of the Week, which basically that happens each and every week. Seemed to happen every week last year. But he is probably not going to win, and here's why. Christian McCaffrey, I had the honor and pleasure of watching him just completely tear the hell out of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense for the San Francisco 49ers. And then Austin Eckler, he had 117 yards and a touchdown for the Chargers in their victory. By the way, the actual numbers for Christian McCaffrey, the actual tearing the hell out of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, came out to the equivalent of 162 yards, 66 of those on a touchdown, and a score in that 30-7 ass whooping, courtesy of the San Francisco 49ers.
All right, you want to go through that rushing list that you want to talk about for a second? Because you alluded to that.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. I'm looking up the I'm looking up the rushing total right now.
Jim Brown, number 1.
Yeah, obviously Jim Brown is number 1. We know that.
Leroy Kelly, number 2.
Yeah. I had it, and I had it bookmarked, and I lost my bookmark. That's why. Here we go.
Nick is chasing down Mike Pruitt right now, right?
For
number 3.
This is where we're at. Okay, yeah. I got it. So Nick right now, he passed Greg Pruitt and Kevin Mack last year. This year, he's got Mike Pruitt in his crosshairs. In fact, he is going to probably pass Mike Pruitt in Pittsburgh next week. Mike Pruitt has 6,540 career yards, and Nick Chubb with another 106. He's up to
6,447.
6,447. So he could, he's going to pass. If he has 100 yards against the Steelers, he's going to pass Mike Pruitt. Leroy Kelly,
93
there,
93.
72-74, but he's going to pass Leroy Kelly this year. So when it's all said and done this season, Nick Chubb is going to be the number 2 rusher in Cleveland Browns history. I just had to get the exact numbers. I knew the order, I just couldn't remember the numbers off the top of my head.
So I'm just trying to think. So that would put him. So Leroy played from 73 to 64. So that was in 9 years. Yeah. Nick will have done this in
6.
Yeah, in almost half the game. So Leroy Kelly played 102 games for the Browns, and Nick is through 49. So almost at 50 games.
To put this
in 50 games, he will become the 3rd all-time leading rusher in franchise history. That's impressive.
Well, let me put this in perspective for you, okay?
Okay.
So in the top 5, Greg Pruitt got his 54-96 in 118 games. Mike Pruitt got his 65-40 in 124 games. The 72-74 for Leroy Kelly came in 136 games. Nick Chubb currently is at 76 career games, and when it's all said and done, will be at 92, if my math is... Yeah, it'll be 92 career games to be the number 2 rusher in Cleveland Browns history. That is just beyond incredible to think about. And he's averaging over 5 yards a carry for his career.
Right. Sorry, I looked at average instead of games played. Sorry, my bad on that. Yeah, you're right. So it's 76. So even I'm just trying to do the math on it. He's on pace then for in 100 games. Just add another 25% to where he's at. So it would be 32.
The only guess. Well, I'm not going to have you guess because I know you're looking at the list right now. But just
right.
to understand his average, only 2 players in Browns history average more yards per carry than he does. Bobby Mitchell, who averaged 5.4, and Marion Motley, who averaged 5.7 yards per carry. Right now, as we speak, Nick Chubb is averaging more yards per carry than Jim Brown.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah, just
Brown,
over 0.1,
Brown
right?
averaged 5.2 a carry. Chubb right now is averaging 5.3. How about that? He's got a higher rushing average than Jim Brown.
Wow. That's amazing.
I didn't realize that until I pulled up these numbers, Andy, and I started looking at them. I did not realize that. That is just absolutely mind-blowing.
He is also on pace, if I'm doing the math right, he will be at when he hits about 100 games, Chubb, when he hits 100 games, he'll be, if not, he'll probably be at 8,000 yards.
Yeah.
Around
Yeah.
8. So if you kind of look at it now, I'm just kind of doing the math on a 50 game, on 76 games, so you're 75% of the way there. I'm just kind of rounding it out. And then you take, based on his total average from before, he'll be at almost 8,000 yards, which will put him 4,000 yards behind Jim Brown at 100 games. And wow, think about that. This is what makes Jim Brown even more impressive, though, right? So if he's at 8,000 yards at around 100 games, and that's where, Leroy did it at 130. Leroy had 136 games and only won 72. Right. But the thing that's impressive about Jim Brown is we're talking about 100 games, 8,000 yards for Chubb. Jim Brown had 1,200 yards, and that was only 18 games past 100. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, and Brown had a couple of those years, because it's interesting when they talk about some of the, Nick Chubb will be the first in team history with the first Brown in his first 6 years, 1,200 scrimmage, things like that, stuff that Jim Brown never did. Well, the thing about Jim Brown is he was similar to Chubb, right? Chubb was short just a couple of yards as a rookie from the full 1,000-yard season. Jim Brown in 1962, 996 yards rushing. He was 4 yards shy of that. And then he was 58 yards shy his rookie season in 1957 that saw him rush for 942 yards in 12 games with 9 touchdowns. Then check this out. The next year he jumped up to 17 touchdowns in 1527, then 1329 and 14, 1257 and 9, 1408 and 8, then the 996 and 13, 1863 back in 1963. That was arguably his best season with 12 touchdowns. The 1964 championship season, 1446 with 7 scores. And then his final year, 1544 and 17 touchdowns. I mean, he had 106. Jim Brown had 106 rushing touchdowns in his career. Think about that for a second. 106 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, by the way, right now is at 48. Greg 47. Leroy Kelly 74. 106 touchdowns for Jim Brown in his career rushing.
So you do realize that if you do that based on the math, at 118, he averaged just less than a touchdown a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other point that so it stands out to me. So when Chubb, let's just say Chubb hits 8,000 yards at 100, he would have 18 games to rush for 4,000 yards to catch Jim Brown.
Just to match Jim Brown, yeah.
That's those numbers are wild. All right, so let's just bring up one other point here too before we run out of time. Jerome Ford, any concerns on the fumble? And then, he only averaged about 2 yards per carry. I heard the argument today about, he got time at the end of the game, but I do think that your number 2 running back, no matter when even if they know they're committing to the run, he's got to average more than 2 yards a carry. I'm sorry. And, I know there are people upset with us today because we said that, but it's just truth. Even if they know you're going to run, you still got to have more yards than that. And the red zone fumble, he's got to get over that real quick.
Well, he did because it was his first carry of the season. To your point, though, he actually did average over 2 yards per carry. He averaged 2.4.
And I'm saying more than. Like, we need more than
He
2.4
did.
yards per
I know.
carry.
I mean, he averaged. You said he needed to average more than 2 yards a carry, and I'm telling you, he
All
did.
right. He needs to average more than 2.5 yards per carry. Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate you. Man, you are just so nice. So sweet. This is why you're fighting with all the hosts. This is why we're not getting along. This is why you're the hottest thing in Northeast Ohio when it comes to things that are going on in the world and
I'm in
standing
no
your
mood.
ground.
Knock it off right now. I'm in no mood.
I'm in no mood either. We're both done. We're both in no. In fact, here's what I'm going to give you.
It's always game day in Cleveland. He's Andy.
Okay.
I'm Daryl. If you like the podcast, please subscribe. Find us on YouTube, the 92.3 The Fan YouTube page. Leave us a review. Leave us a comment. Follow us on social media at Game Day CLE or Right or Wrong Fan or Andy_Baskin. And we'll get back to you. So thanks for listening as always. And again, remember, rate and subscribe to It's Always Game Day in Cleveland.
It's always game day in Cleveland.